Now it is very important that you understand how settlement discounts impact your subsidiary journals. Let's take this example. Assume a VAT rate of 15%. AB is a sole proprietor who is also a registered VAT vendor. Assume a VAT rate of 15%. The bookkeeper, Mrs. Jones, fell seriously ill and the owner, Mr. Abbey, requested your assistance to complete the accounting entries for the month of April. It is a policy of the business to always make use of allowance accounts because history has shown that all clients utilize the available discounts when they pay their accounts. Now, important. The credit terms are 10, 20, and 40. What does that mean? It means if they pay the invoice within 20 days after the invoice date, they will receive a 10% settlement discount. In total, they have 40 days to settle the outstanding invoice. Now, the following journals were given to you. The debtors journal for April looked as follows. There was our documents, the dates of the transactions, the debtors' names, and then the amounts. Now, it is very important that you understand what amount goes to what column. The invoice amount will always go to the debtors column because that is the amount that he owes us, and that will always include VAT. So the total credit invoices issued for this period was 9545 VAT inclusive. All our debtors make use of settlement discounts. Therefore, when the sales transaction takes place, we have to make provision for our allowance for settlement discount account. So what do? We take the invoice amount, and we take out the VAT. So 2,300 divided by 1.15 multiplied by 15% gives us 300 Rand, which will be VAT output. Then we will derive at the VAT exclusive amount, which is now 2,000 Rand. 2,300 less 300, which gives us 2,000 Rand. The 2,000 Rand is broken down into two legs. 90% will go to sales because there's a 10% settlement discount, and 10% of the VAT exclusive amount will go to the allowance for settlement discount account. So when we cross-cast these figures, it must come back to the invoice value of 2,300. 1,800 plus 200 is 2,000 plus 300 is 2,300. And the same thing applied to the other invoices that were posted. Let's go and have a look at our cash receipts journal for April. Now again, the document, the date, where did we receive the money from, which is cash receipts, what was the amounts that we banked. Now, let's look at the Brain, for instance. The Brain owed us 2,300 Rand. He has now settled his outstanding invoice and is settled within the settlement period. How much did we receive from the Brain? Not 2,300, but 2,300 times 90%, which gives us 2,070. So you can only post to your bank account the amount actually received. But with what amount do we want to clear the Brain's account? We want to clear the full 2,300 Rand against this account. So the full amount of the invoice that he has settled will go to the debtors column in the cash receipts journal, 2,300. I was going to repeat myself again. In the bank account will only be the actual amount received. In the debtors column will be the total outstanding invoice of 2,300. Now, what is the difference between the 2,300 and the 2,070? The discount, the settlement discount that he has utilized. Now, that amount less that amount will be a VAT inclusive amount. What did we do when we created the first entry? We created an allowance for settlement discount, which was a VAT exclusive amount. So that amount we are going to take out of our books now. So that when we debited, when we created the sales transaction, we debited sales, credited sales, credited allowance for settlement discount, and credited VAT output. So if we want to take that out of the books, we're going to debit that account. So this is going to be a minus. He didn't pay us 2,300, he paid us 2,300 minus 200, but that 200 is only the VAT exclusive amount. So the VAT that we can claim on the 200 times 15% equals 30, and that will go against our VAT input. Now let's check the cross-casting. 2,300 less 200 equals 2,100, less 30 is going to be 2,070, and that is the amount that we have received in the bank. So can you see that every time our transaction there must be the full transaction and it must cross-cast back. So there must be a balance there to 2,300. If we look at the cash receipts journal, it is the full transaction that's posted in the cash book receipts journal. In the bank account will only be reflected the amount actually received. In the debtors column will be reflected the full outstanding amount of the invoice that was paid. And then the difference between the two is settlement discount and VAT on the settlement discount. It's required from you to prepare the journal entries to post these two subsidiary journals to the general ledger at the end of April. And now if we're going to post that journal entry, you will see it looks exactly the same as all the entries that we've passed until now. But now you can see why we passed the entry the way that we do, so that this journal of us can be in balance. So with a sales transaction, credit sales, which is coming from the debtors journal, what do we post to the debtors control account? The full invoice value of the credit sales. So we're going to debit debtors control 9545. We're going to credit then VAT output with a VAT included in that invoice, which was 1245. We're going to get the VAT exclusive amount, and that is going to be broken down into the two legs. 90% will go to sales and 10% to the allowance for settlement discount. So debit debtors with 9545 statement of financial position. Credit sales with 7470. 7470. Credit our allowance for settlement discount with 830, that one there, and credit VAT output with 1245. 1245. And you can add these three together and it will balance back to the 9545. Then we've done the month-end posting from our debtors journal to the general ledger. Let's do the month-end posting from the cash book receipts journal. Now here, what are we going to debit? What was actually banked? That amount. We're going to debit our bank with 30,475. So bank debit, statement of financial position, 30,475 Rand. Then the next entry there, sales. What kind of sales is this? This is cash sales, got nothing to do with debtors. So cash sales would have been credited with a full 22,000 Rand. Then if we go back here, we would say that, well, the debtors that we want to clear out of our books, that would have been that amount. And here was another one, Mbavani, that amount that of the invoice was 3450, so against the debtors was 3450. What amount did we receive? 3450 times 90%, which is the 3105 in our bank column. What do we have to clean out of our books? The allowance for settlement discount, which has already been accounted for, 300 Rand. So there we take it out, and there now we can claim the VAT on it's there in brackets, VAT input, 300 times 15%, which gives us in the 45 Rand that we can claim. So 3450 less 300 less 45 will rebalance back to the amount received of 3105. Good. So let's continue then. Debtors would have been credited with 5750, the full invoice value of the amounts that was settled. So debtors control, statement of financial position, 5750. Our allowance for settlement discount, that is going to be debited now with 500. You see the brackets there with 500 Rand. And then the last entry is our net VAT. That's going to remain there if I add everything up, and those two are debits against the credit. So 3225 would have been credited in total to the VAT output account 3225, and then you will see that the debits and credits actually balance with each other. Now that seems to be fairly straightforward, but now you must understand exactly what happened there. If I give you the total of the debtors column for the month of April in the debtors journal, and I give you the total of 9545, you should know that that total represents the invoice value of credit sales for the month of April. So if I ask you, I give you that total, but I ask you the income statement, and you have to give me the sales figure for the month. You're going to extract your cash sales from your cash book receipts journal, 22,000. And then you're going to add to it your credit sales. And what will your credit sales be? The VAT exclusive amount, net of my settlement discount. Okay. So the story here is to take one figure and work back to another figure. If I give you the 9545, you can work out what was the VAT output on the invoices issued for the month. And then if I take the VAT output out, then I tell you, okay, well, the VAT output 747, the VAT output amount, 90% of the VAT exclusive amount would have been posted to sales, and 10% of the VAT exclusive amount would have been posted to the allowance of settlement discount. If I should give you the VAT output amount of 1245, you should know that that represents 15% of the invoice value. So if I then divide the 1245 by 15%, it should give me 8,300 Rand, which is the VAT exclusive amount. So 1245 is the VAT exclusive amount. You know that we post to our debtors account the VAT inclusive amount. So now I must take the 8,300 and multiply that by 1.15 to work back to that figure there of 9545. So if I only tell you that the VAT output figure in the debtors control journal for the month of April was 1245, I give you the VAT rate of 15% and I ask you to do the income statement. You should be able to work back to my income statement from here on by starting with the 1245 divided by 15% gives me the VAT exclusive amount of 8,300. 8,300 times 1.15 would be my debtors amount of 9545. 8,300 times 90% will give me my credit sales figure for the month of 7470. So then the credit sales figure of 7470 and the cash sales figure of 22,000 will equate to my total sales in my income statement for the month. If I ask you to disclose from the 1245 trade and other receivables note to the statement of financial position, then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to say 1245 divided by 15% equals 8,300. That's a VAT exclusive amount. I have to add the VAT to get to my debtors figure. So 8,300 times 1.15 equals 9545. So in my trade and other receivables note, I will start with debtors, 9545. Then I can work out my allowance for settlement discount, which I have to deduct from my gross debtors figure for disclosure purposes in the statement of financial position. What will be my allowance for settlement discount? 9545, the invoice figure, take out the VAT, I'm back at 8,300, multiplied by 10%. So my allowance for settlement discount at the end of the month, 830 Rand. So what am I going to disclose? 9545 less 830 Rand will be my net trade debtors as disclosed in my income statement. Guys, can you see that I can give you one figure and you should be able to work back to all the other figures in this thing and then to derive eventually at another figure that I might ask from you. I might have asked from you the income statement. I could have asked from you the statement of financial position. And the only thing that I would have given you is the VAT as recorded in the debtors journal for the month of April 1245. Let's move to the cash book receipts journal. Just move this in. If I've given you the cash book receipts journal for the month of April, and I've told you that the amounts received from debtors as recorded in the cash book receipts journal. Now, if you look here, this was an amount that was received from the debtors, the Brian and Mbuvani. So in total, I give you the 5750. But I tell you that the amounts received, that was not 5750. The amounts that we received, which was actually banked, that is the actual amount received. 2070 plus 3105 equals 5175. So I tell you that amounts received from debtors actually in our bank during the course of the month was 5175. And then I ask you statement of financial position of trade and other receivables. Then you should know by yourself that 5175 only represents 90% of the actual outstanding debtors figure. So I have to work back to the actual amount that was credited against our debtors control for the month, and that was 5750. So the 5175, the 2070 and the 3105 divided by 90% gives me 5750. So you should be able to fill in that blank of 5750. Then you should also be able to fill in what the allowance for settlement discount was applicable on the 5750, and that would have been 500 Rand. How did we get there from the 5750? Well, the 5750 is the amount credited against debtors, so that includes VAT. So if we take out the VAT, there's only 5,000 Rand VAT exclusive left. And that multiplied by the 10% allowance for settlement discount gives me 500 Rand. So you will be able to calculate that 500 Rand yourself by only giving you the 2070 and the 3105. So you would have been able to calculate that one, and you would have been able to calculate that one. Now, obviously, if you have the 500 Rand, you would have had the VAT applicable on the 500 Rand as well. It's the 30 and the 45. The 500 Rand times 15% equals 75. And there you should see it in those books. So the purpose of this exercise is that you think about the consequences of posting an entry against the debtors journal. And obviously, the debtors allowances journal is the same as the debtors journal. It's just the other way around. And the consequences of posting something in the cashbook receipts journal, and how you should use one figure in order to derive to another figure in order to derive at a figure most probably required to put in an income statement or statement of financial position.